Welcome to Kings Round, and we got the NFC Divisional game. Rams versus the Packers. This is going to be good. What you got for us, Jake?
Yeah, well, if you want to check out my content, you can find me at JKBoganDTSN on Twitter. I cover the Rams for Downtown Rams, and I have my own YouTube channel, literally Jake Ellen Bogan, right there in the thing. So thanks for letting me plug my stuff in.
And G Bridge?
My name is Gage Bridgeford. You can find me on Twitter at GBridgefordNFL. I'm one of the co-hosts of the Pack-A-Day podcast. Thank you for having me on today. I was really excited. I always love talking ball, and I actually haven't gotten to talk a lot about the Rams this year, so I was excited to be there. You can find all of my work on my Twitter account. I write for 4 different sites as well as doing a lot of personal work, so all of the stuff that I put out, you can find over there on my Twitter.
And if you're new to the channel, you know how we get down. Ayo, Ace! Welcome to King's Realm. I'm the King, and I got something to say. We got a good one this weekend coming up, people. You got the Rams versus the Packers at Lambeau Field, Saturday at 3:35 p.m. How you feeling going into the game, Jake?
Pretty good. It's a weird one. You have Jared Goff, who has 4 fingers that are active right now with the whole thing going on. He was a full participant this week. I have to imagine, with a full, week to prepare, not just being thrown in the game, he's going to be more prepared. But this is a different Rams team. And, everybody was talking, well, Sean McVay, the boy wonder, offensive genius. Well, it's not really to be this year. It's not an offensive-minded team. It's a defensive-minded team. And it's very similar to the mold of a Brian Billick Ravens Super Bowl team. And so that's why, I'm feeling good about this defense. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. But I do think that the Rams should feel good coming into this game. They already showed you they can win, in Seattle. They can win on the road. They've won, a few really impressive games, especially the primetime game against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. But I just think, all in all, this is a team that they're in every single game. They're not a team that really gets blown out. Kind of an anomaly game, the blowout. They lost by 11 to Miami right after the bye or right before the bye. Came down to Jared Goff turning the ball over 4 times. I think Jared Goff realizes that he can't turn the ball over. It's not going to go that crazy. And in this game, that's why I do feel pretty confident in the Rams.
How you feeling about that, G Bridge?
I'm a big fan of what the Rams have done this year because over the last couple of years, it's been they live and die by the offense. Yeah, they have they go with the studs and duds model on defense with obviously Aaron Donald, who is probably the greatest defensive player of his generation. And you can argue that he's one of the greatest players, like one of the greatest defensive players of all time. Could be the greatest. Jalen Ramsey's playing. He's one of the best corners in football right now. Definitely top 3 for sure. So I really like the team that they built there, but I just think that in the playoffs, the games come down to quarterbacks a lot of the time. Yes, defense is important. Obviously, the whole adage is defense wins championships, but games ultimately a lot of the time comes down to quarterback play, which is why having the presumptive MVP and Aaron Rodgers gives me a lot of confidence compared to Jared Goff. Especially with the cold, it's supposed to be 32 degrees kickoff and throughout the game. There's a light chance of precipitation, so it's possible it's going to be kind of a wintry mix thing, which some people would say, oh, that favors the Rams because they can run the ball really well, but Green Bay can run the ball well also. And they have a 3-headed backfield. A.J. Dillon doesn't get a ton of work, but he can. And I think that for Green Bay, I think that the Rams got a shot to keep it close, but I think ultimately just Green Bay is going to come out of this game with a win because I have the confidence in Rodgers to handle the ball no matter the elements versus I don't have that with Jared Goff.
Yeah. Speaking of Jared Goff, Jake, how did you feel about Jared Goff and his season this year?
Well, I'm not the most loved in, the Rams fandom. We'll just say that. Very, 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 critical of Goff. Because, here's the thing. If I didn't have expectations, I wouldn't be critical. And so when Jared Goff came out in 2017, showed us 2016 was kind of like the Aikman year, his rookie year. He didn't do well. Then he came back, finally had an offense and, was able to do something similar to Jared Goff. 2016 was a disaster, just nothing around him. Coaching was a joke. The offensive coordinator is not even in the league anymore, not even a position coach, if that tells you anything. So, 2017 rolls along. They go out, they get Andrew Whitworth to protect his blind side instead of, Greg Robinson. Huge. I don't think I have to tell anybody how huge of a difference that made. And then going out and getting guys like Robert Woods, trading for Sammy Watkins, drafting Cooper Kupp, Gerald Everett. They gave him weapons. Not only that, but they turned Todd Gurley from an Eddie George into a Marshall Faulk in that offense. He was phenomenal. So you give him to Jared Goff. Everything's going well for him. You see what he can do in 2017. They lose to your Atlanta Falcons in the playoffs, a very hard-fought game. Got to have all the respect in the world for the way, Atlanta played on the road. And then 2018, they learned from their mistakes. They bounce back. You see Goff looks like he's about to take the next step. I say it all the time. There's a lot of, great quarterbacks. I think Aaron Rodgers personally is the greatest quarterback I've ever watched. But Jared Goff played the best game I've ever watched. It was a week 4 matchup on Thursday Night Football in 2018 against the Minnesota Vikings. And he was just phenomenal. 158.3 passer rating. He had, I think, 5 touchdowns. He was just unreal, testing all over the field. Well, what happened? That Jared Goff is gone. It's not the same quarterback. You see in 2019, he is 3rd in the league in passing. His team misses the playoffs. 2020, you're thinking, oh, things will be a little different, right? 2020, no, they weren't very different at all, except this team made the playoffs. And quite honestly, I think they made the playoffs because, at the end of the day, John Wolford came in to save the day. You can say he didn't have a touchdown, but it was a little concerning when he jumped in week 17 and he looked like he had been running the offense all week or all year rather, after just making his first, NFL, debut. So I feel like Goff obviously still has the talent. To me, I feel like it's a question of, not his heart. I don't question that. I question more so his confidence. And, is this somebody that was willing to take a shot down the field at any point in 2018, led the Rams to a Super Bowl in 2018? Was he ultimately broken by Bill Belichick and Vic Fangio and the defensive, minded coaches that set aside these, these landmines for him that him and Sean McVay ultimately fell into? Or, is he going to finally bounce back? Is this maybe the thing he needed? One thing you can't question is Jared Goff's heart and his durability, because this is his first legitimate injury with the thumb. He's been hit so many times and always, finds a way to get up. He missed his first game, week 17. He wasn't happy to sit in the wild card game, but he came out, after John Wolford gets hurt. He comes in and he does everything they asked him to do. But make no mistake, he wasn't like thoroughly impressive. He was impressive when you factor in the thumb. But my question for him now is, can he go out and go back to 2018? I understand the thumb's still probably an issue. It's uncomfortable, but he's had a whole week to prepare. He's been a full participant. And I think ultimately, if he's healthy, that I really need to see a jump. And that's really, to me, what Jared Goff 2020 has been. It's been, bits and pieces of, things like I'll flash here and there, but ultimately, this guy at the end of the day leads the league in turnovers over the last 2 years with 39. So, I do have my concerns. I think they're definitely reasonable in that regard.
Yeah. Jared Goff has been, I think, like you said, you hit the head on the nail with that comment about Bill Belichick and being broken, because that year y'all was one of the best offenses, and then you go into the Super Bowl, you only score 3 points.
Yeah.
So it's like that's real. That's one of those things that could really hurt your spirit. It's not as bad as the comeback that they did on us.
It was rough to see.
Go ahead, G Bridge.
No, I was going to say it was rough to see that year. I really thought that game had a chance to be exciting because obviously that was the year that the Chiefs Rams game happened on Monday Night Football, and that was in my lifetime in terms of non-Packer games that I've watched, that might be the most exciting game I've ever seen. Just from start to finish, that game had all of the fireworks from just the entire game. It was amazing to watch. I loved watching it. And when you said Wolford came in and kind of looked like he'd been running the offense all year, that kind of put a lot of credence to the argument of Jared Goff being a system quarterback. I know, Jake, you've heard it. Everybody that has followed football since Jared Goff has gotten with Sean McVay has said the same thing. Jared Goff is a system quarterback. It's just the system that makes him look good. And then Wolford comes in, and Wolford, did he look great? No. But did he look exactly about as good as Jared Goff had looked for the majority of the year? Jared Goff's, yes, he's had highs and lows this year, but for the most part, Wolford was pretty on brand. He let his running backs do the work. He let the defense carry the load for him. He made a couple of throws here and there. He let the game come to him. So that's why when I saw Wolford was out, or was it today that he was officially announced as out for the week and that Goff was going to start? Yeah. So it's like, well, I mean, we assumed Goff was going to play. He played last week. He didn't look great, but he was fine. He was serviceable, and that's all this Rams team needs now. They don't need him to go and put up 350 yards and 4 scores. They don't need that. They say, take care of the ball, hand it off to your running back, let them do it, and then you're playing with the top 5 defense. And on a good week, that Rams defense is a top 1 defense. They're that good. Aaron Donald and the rest of that defensive line with Leonard Floyd has what, like 7 sacks this year of Russell Wilson. And I think he's got like 13 total or something like that. He's had a great year. Sebastian Joseph Day and the rest of that, like that defensive line. It's not high draft picks. It's not high price free agents. It's dudes playing their job and playing it really, really well. You guys let Corey Littleton walk, and everyone assumed in the offseason, the linebacker room is going to be a joke. And it's not an elite linebacker room, but they're playing their job really well. Kaiser White is a guy who has played very well all season. And I remember early in the year when he was really flashing, people were talking about that your former DC or the DC that had left, or a defensive coach that had left and gone to like Vegas, had made a mistake by taking Littleton instead of White because White was playing so well. And then you have Ramsey, who obviously we talked about him already. Troy Hill on the other side has just played 1,000 snaps, had been a watch. He had looked like the second best corner coming out of college out of Oregon, because that was the Ifo Ekpre Olumu year. I can't remember if that's how you pronounce his name. Troy Hill was the other guy, and Troy Hill is now a very, very good number 2 corner. And he could, in this offseason, he's not going to get big money, but he could get paid pretty well this offseason because he's played so well, opposite Ramsey even.
Yeah. Shout out to Frankie in the comments. Goff is hearing the rumors and fan outcry about his play. He has no choice. He has to show up Saturday. How you feel about that? And him having to show up, Jake?
Well, I absolutely agree. I mean, at this point, and I know it sounds crazy because, you're pretty much married to him, you would think, with all the money that's being, put into him. But I got news for you. If he doesn't win a Super Bowl this year, I don't know 100% if he's a Ram next year. I think the Deshaun Watson stuff is very real, and I think that it can be done. It's more so like everyone's like, well, how would the Rams afford it? The Rams can afford it. It's a matter of if the Texans can afford it. And, with that, I don't know. But if, when people say, well, there's no way, they're trading Deshaun Watson, I got news for you. If Deshaun Watson says he's not playing for you, you're going to end up trading him. That's how that works. That's called leverage. And he's got all of it. So right now they're in a weird spot because they can't even get a coach in that building. I think they interviewed Bieniemy, but I think that's
they didn't even interview him yet. They can't.
They didn't even interview him.
Yeah, they can't until next week because they waited too long.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Them and was it Philly also? Yeah, Philly did the same thing. Both of those, they waited too long to interview him, and then Philly didn't fire Peterson in time, so they both have to wait until next week in order to interview Bieniemy.
What a mess. But that's what I'm talking about. That organization right now is in shambles. And you have like Andre Johnson is so well respected among Texans fans. I mean, he's one of the top guys. So when he comes out as an ambassador for the team and then comes out as an ambassador against the team, he gets equal footing. He's going to get the same type of response. And so at the end of the day, when he came out and said what he did, saying to Deshaun Watson, you do what you do, you stand up for yourself. That said a lot to me. The reason I'm saying that is obviously I'm sure you guys saw the Stephen A. clip. I'm not putting too much stock into that, but I was already having thoughts that they could go after Watson. We saw when Jared Goff was out, we saw John Wolford, and we saw Sean McVay open up the playbook a little bit for John Wolford, did we not? So my thing is, think about this. Sean McVay could have been any other coach. He could have been like Chip Kelly. I have a system. I need certain guys for it, instead of, Sean McVay kind of putting his system around the guys that he has. And that's what he did. And so he kept Jared Goff. He didn't move on from him. That hasn't been his guy. Sean Mannion wasn't his guy. Those are the quarterbacks that were there. But here's the interesting tidbit. When Sean McVay added a quarterback during his tenure, it has been a mobile quarterback. Blake Bortles has fallen off a little bit with mobility, but they added him. Brandon Allen, another guy, mobile quarterback. He started this year after Zach Taylor took him over to Cincinnati. John Wolford, mobility. Bryce Perkins, you saw what he did at Virginia, undrafted rookie free agent, mobility. Jared Goff, not mobile. That's the only quarterback. And I think, to me, the game is turning into, if you have a mobile quarterback, like, you can win. And if you don't have a mobile quarterback, he needs to be Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, like that type of level of player. And so at the end of the day, Jared Goff isn't that right now. I don't know if he'll ever become that, but he's not that right now. And so I think having Wolford kind of have that test run, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams are starting to think, we might have screwed this one up. So I think really Jared Goff has to win a Super Bowl this year for them to not make a move, because obviously you're not going to trade away Goff. He signed long-term, and then if he wins a Super Bowl, he's good. But if he doesn't win, and say they fall in this game or they fall in the next game, people can make the excuses all they want about the thumb. But, I mean, then it starts to beg the question, what if the thumb wasn't an issue because he wasn't playing that well before the injury? So I'm not trying to trash him because he did just, win the game last week. But, to answer or just rather respond to that by Frankie, I think he has no choice. I think he absolutely has to be up for the challenge. And look, there's no excuse, because I don't think the Rams are going to put in position to fail. I mean, ultimately, I would run just straight up. I'd run power run the entire game. I'd go with 13 personnel, and I would just run Cam Akers and make Green Bay stop me. And if they can't stop me, then now I know that, this game's going to be controlled by me. Ultimately, the formula of a Sean McVay coach team is you're going to dominate the time of possession, no matter who you're going up against. But when you're going up against Aaron Rodgers, who, again, I believe is the greatest quarterback, you're going to want to keep him on the sideline as long as possible. And the thing that has made this defense so great is the fact that at the end of the day, this defense hasn't been able to be exposed. And we could talk about, maybe like the linebackers you brought up on G-Bridge, that, with the linebackers, Corey Littleton was gone. I think he's done a nice job of scheming around them and really hiding their shortcomings and their issues there. But a huge thing here is that this defense is never tired because the offense does such a great job of staying on the field. This offense doesn't put the ball in the end zone. That is what is holding back this offense. It's why they're not as high as they should be. But make no mistake, they have one game this year against the New York Giants in which they haven't eclipsed at least 300 yards of total offense. This offense moves the ball, and this offense holds on to the ball for a long time. So that's the key. You use Akers, and Jared Goff doesn't have to do too much. And if they put him in position to do too much and he can't handle it, then, I mean, that's a franchise quarterback right there that needs to be able to do that. He's getting paid a lot. And, despite the thumb, I mean, he showed you last week he can do it. There's no excuse this week, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. The best way to win this game for the Rams would be to keep the best quarterback I've ever seen also to on the sideline. So since we talked about Jared Goff, G-Bridge, we know that your quarterback has been balling, man. He's probably going to win MVP, but I would not want him to win MVP because if he wins MVP, he probably won't win a Super Bowl, and I might cry. So how did you feel about this year and his MVP year?
I think Aaron Rodgers came out this year, and the main reason he was so successful was he really bought into the system. Obviously, last year was the first year with Matt LaFleur as the head coach, and that was coming from the Sean McVay system. It was the first time in Rodgers' career that he had a new system. Obviously, Mike McCarthy, who is now in Dallas, and also quick thing on McCarthy. For everybody that's bashing McCarthy and calling him a terrible head coach or whatever, the guy won a Super Bowl, took a quarterback to one that had 2 MVPs, and had nearly winning seasons every year for over a decade. So everybody that wants
something about that, since you brought that up, is some of that the greatness in the play of Aaron Rodgers?
Yes and no. Because he had a couple of winning seasons with Brett Favre before and that was with the old Brett Favre. That was with aging Brett Favre. They went 13-3 in Brett Favre's final year. So, and people want to say, oh, well, he had Brett Favre and then he had Rodgers, so it was really easy to be good. The people don't remember old Brett Favre was just chucking it, man. He was what Ryan Fitzpatrick is now, just throwing it. If he turned it over, so be it. Some of it may be the fact that Rodgers is a supremely talented player and one of the greatest, and arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. I think he's the most talented quarterback I've seen so far. Could Mahomes pass it by the time it's all said and done? Sure, but
I would agree with that. Yeah,
but we're not to that point yet. Right now, it's still Rodgers, and he's done it for longer. So, but I think that some of that might have been to McCarthy's aid. Like obviously, having Rodgers makes life a lot easier, but still, McCarthy had to scheme it up. He had the coaches and did all that stuff. But I don't want to talk too much about that. With Rodgers, he came in and he has full control over the system, and he's just pulling strings that just make everything look so effortless at times. There's like a lot of teams when they go for it on 4th down, you'll hear all the announcers, oh, you got to watch out for this guy and this guy. And for Green Bay, it'd be, oh, you got to watch out for Devontae and Aaron Jones, because that's the guys they're going to go to here. And more often than not, no, that's not who they go to. They go to Robert Tonyan, the tight end from Indiana State. They go to Malik Taylor, the 5th string wide receiver. They go to DeMar Daphne, the backup tight end, who's also from Indiana State. He's from Iowa or something. Doesn't matter. They don't go to the key guys. Because these other guys are all running open, because the entire defense is thinking, we got to shut down these main guys. And then LaFleur's just got random guys running wide open on the opposite side of the offense. So Rodgers having full control, fully buying into the system, and having a great offensive line, because even with David Bakhtiari missing, he obviously missed week 17 and he missed a couple of games earlier in the year. This offensive line has played very well, and similar to the Rams offense in that way. When Andrew Whitworth went down, I was like, the Rams are toast. Jared Goff's going to get crushed on a weekly basis, but the system and the scheme they had set up made Goff's life easier, and the same thing went for Green Bay. They had good depth to step in and take over for him and make them successful, and this team is set up well. And recently the defense has been crushing it. Over the last 6 games, they're allowing less than 19 points per game, which is right around where the Rams have been at that mark all year. I think the Rams on the year are like 18.8 points per game allowed, which is an incredible mark. And that's where Green Bay has been over the last 6 weeks or so. Rodgers and this offense are really clicking. They've scored on a touchdown on over 90% of their red zone possessions. Let that sink in. 90% of the time, they're scoring touchdowns in the red zone. They call it the gold zone, obviously, and like it's the whole gold member thing. So when they get down there, they're scoring. And and I know that's been a key stat for people looking at this Rams-Packer game. Is obviously the Rams defense has been amazing all year. In the red zone at home, they're allowing just 50%, 50% of like drives to turn into touchdowns. On the road, they're allowing drives that get to the red zone 90% of the time turn into touchdowns, so that's a big deal of why home field really matters here for Green Bay. Obviously, they're impressive in the red zone, and the Rams, who have a great defense, have struggled a fair bit on the road when teams get down in the red zone against them. They're just, I don't know what the reason is, but they just can't quite shut them down there. So that's why Rodgers fully buying into this system and just having and everyone's like, oh, well, they didn't draft a wide receiver. That's okay. Devontae Adams is playing the best wide receiver ball in football. He's playing better than Julio, Calvin Ridley, Nuke Hopkins, Stephon Diggs, everybody.
Agree with that.
Devontae is playing the best wide receiver football right now. And if he hadn't missed, I think 2 or 3 games, he would have set a lot of records. He already set a record. He's the first receiver in history to have over 100 yards in a season and 18 touchdowns. That was a record. So Davante Adams playing as well as he is right now, and then all of the other weapons chipping in their own way just makes this offense churn at just such a high rate. And having Rodgers as your trigger man over having not a knock on Jared Goff, but over having a guy like a Jared Goff or a Kirk Cousins, a Jag.
Yeah, no, you're not. No, I mean that's how it is,
Yeah, I was like, I want to say it to where it doesn't sound like I'm not trying to make it as a knock, but I'm trying to say like the difference between having a game winner and having a game manager.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you spoke about Davante Adams, and I wanted to speak about the Jalen Ramsey. How do you think that's going to fare up with Davante Adams and Jalen Ramsey? We'll start with you, G Bridge.
Davante Adams is going to get his. I think Jalen will win a couple of the battles here and there. I expect them to shadow. I know earlier in the season, Jalen Ramsey got in DK's head by saying, "Oh yeah, no, I'm not going to shadow," and then he proceeded to follow him on like 80% of his routes or something stupid. Jalen is an outstanding corner. Like I said earlier, he is a top 3. He is a top 3, and a lot of times he's top 2. Personally, I think Jair Alexander should have been a All-Pro this year. I think that the fact that he wasn't first-team All-Pro was kind of ridiculous. I think that a lot of it came down to name recognition and then interceptions. In the case of Xavier Howard, he had an incredible year with interceptions. But granted, he allowed more yards, was targeted more, gave up more touchdowns, but it's all about interceptions.
I hear you. I'm with you there.
So, he had a great year. Don't get me wrong. But all it was based on was interceptions. Congratulations. Guess what? Jair Alexander and Jalen Ramsey weren't thrown at. That's why they didn't have interceptions.
Pretty much.
So,
you get it.
Yeah. So Jair Alexander's play is great. And I think that him and Jalen are they're playing some of the best corners. There's a lot of really good corners around the NFL right now. And in my opinion, the 2 best ones from this season are in this game. But I think Devontae is going to get his fair share. Jalen is great again. But the main reason that Jalen has been successful this year is you look down the list of the receivers that he beat, and a lot of guys that he took down were big guys that rely on speed and physicality, which are like DK, Nuke Hopkins, and the guys that they've gone against this year have been big physical guys. Like Mike Evans got erased by Jalen. But then you go to Devontae, and everyone's like Devontae's like 6'2", 220. He's a taller guy. And he's got a little bit of muscle to him, but he doesn't win with speed and physicality. He wins with footwork. I'm not saying that Jalen can't cover that. It's just you can't it's hard to jam Devontae because you can't touch him. I've seen guys line up at the line of scrimmage on him, and he does one quick shuffle step and he's gone, and he's leaving corners grabbing it air, and everyone's like, oh well, they weren't Jalen Ramsey. Yeah, but these guys weren't slouches, okay?
Yeah.
He does it to everybody. Yeah. And this is why I say that he's playing the best football, the best wide receiver ball in the NFL right now. It's no knock on Jalen. He's going to win his share of battles on Saturday night. I just think Devontae's going to win more.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Jalen Ramsey has been playing these big physical guys, like you said, but Jalen Ramsey's a big, fast, physical guy himself, and I think that's what helps him a lot in these matchups. Because people forget he's pretty fast himself and he's really physical at the line. But like you said, Davante Adams' footwork and his route running is going to be exceptional. So, Jake, how do you feel about this matchup?
Well, I got to give G-Bridge a lot of credit because, first off, he's totally right. The 2 best corners in this, in the league are in this game. And it's no knock on Xavier Howard. What he did was very impressive. J.C. Jackson, what he did was very impressive. But you're talking about 2 guys that aren't thrown at enough. And so they're not going to get those stats. And at the end of the day, all that tells me is that you could arguably be a receiver in this league because you can catch. Look, Jalen Ramsey and Jair Alexander are just absolutely feisty interface type of corners. I personally think that Jalen Ramsey is going to get the best of Davante Adams, but I do think Adams will have his moments. I think it's going to be similar to the Cowboys game where you saw, I believe it was Amari Cooper that got over the top, and then it got called back because of the pass interference. Like I could see a play like that or 2 happening. but Jalen has been so disciplined. And really what they're doing is they're playing zone coverage and just having Jalen shadow. And another guy to mention, Darius Williams. I don't see, because here's the thing: if they don't go to Adams, there's not another receiver where like you need Darius Williams to shut down. Whereas like the Seahawks, you have Metcalf, and then, oh, by the way, they have Tyler Lockett as well, which is a problem. But they did a beautiful job of defending those guys. And I think if Jalen Ramsey can just stick to what he does best, and I say hold Adams the threshold of say 70 yards or under, the Rams will be in really good position to win this game. I do worry about Tanyan. I do think he's somebody that could slip away, because we did see it. As great as John Johnson and Jordan Fuller have been, like George Kittle had a really big game, and that happens. It's when great tight ends play this defense, they're able to do something, and that's what Kittle was able to do.
Do you know who Kittle works out with in the offseason? Sorry to interrupt you.
I do not.
He works out with Bob Tunyon.
Really?
They both they work out in the offseason together, and all year long, whenever Tunyon's done interviews, he's talked about how working out with Kittle in the offseason and working with Kittle in the offseason has made a huge difference in his game. And Kittle has, on a couple of occasions, has talked about, like, because everyone knows that they work out together and stuff, has said, the stuff that he's doing, he's making a huge difference there. So I like when you said that he could have a big game, I was like, yeah, he could. He works out with the same guy that you just propped up.
Kittle's my guy. He came on my my podcast like years ago before he even went to the NFL. So I'm a big fan of his. Unfortunately, he's on the Niners though, so we don't really.
Yeah, that's rough to have to root against him.
It really is. But I just think, like, at the end of the day, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, I could totally see him getting open, like, maybe breaking past Troy Hill, who's had a very good season. But at the end of the day, I'm not really worried about Marquez Valdes-Scantling, because I feel like every time I turn around, he drops, the big play. And
he doesn't drop it that often. It's just the problem is the drop is what gets on TV. It's not the other stuff he does. Like in the Bears game, he had a play where he cooked a linebacker and walked into the end zone, and then he had the one that he dropped. He does this weird thing with his hands, like he catches like thumbs down, and
noticed that.
It's a weird thing that he does, and so I think that is what leads to it. My guess is he's done it for so long he can't change it. But it just, he doesn't drop it as often as he gets credit for. The problem is just he's so far down, like he's downfield. It's the big play, and everyone's like, "Oh, easy walk-in touchdown." Then he drops it. It's like,
oh, dude. I know. But I mean, I watched a lot of Packers games too. Like I really respect this team. I could even say I like this team. What really bums me out, G-Bridge, is that this isn't the NFC title game.
Yeah,
that's the thing that bums me out, because either way, whoever wins this game is who I'm rooting for to take it all. Like, let me just make that very clear, because it's not that I have anything against Breeze, and technically I shouldn't have any beef against the Saints, but I don't love the Saints because I really don't like Sean Payton, and I don't like Tom Brady. So I mean, or Bruce.
I was talking to someone yesterday about Tom Brady, and it's like, I don't like him. I respect the things he's accomplished, and I respect all of that, and I respect the longevity of his game, but I don't have to like him.
No.
I don't care how good he is at Twitter. I don't care.
I think he's kind of annoying at Twitter.
He is, and he isn't. Like the one he did with the History Channel meme the other day of like him looking 70 years old, like the him and Drew Brees one. That was kind of funny. I'm like, I don't want to like you, and you're making it hard. But no, I'm really hoping. I was glad that the Saints are the ones playing the Bucs, just because I think the Saints really have the Bucs number, and they owned them. I think that this game's going to be much closer than 38-3, but the Saints just match up so well with them.
If it happens to be 38-3, I'm signing up for that tomorrow.
I'm not mad about it at all.
I won't be complaining.
Yeah.
Frankie, it's a shame that this Rams defense has to play perfect, and it doesn't seem fair. Well, man, life's not fair sometimes. They're pretty much going to have to play perfect. Aaron Donald will be going up. Well, he moves up and down the line of scrimmage, but somebody else he should be worried about is Corey Lindsey, who he probably will be trying to stay away from. How do you feel about that matchup, Jake?
Well, you know what's funny? You bring up Aaron Donald. He actually has torn cartilage in his ribs, and the thing is, anytime you have some sort of injury like that, you really don't want to be in the trenches. That's probably the opposite position where you want to be. G-Bridge, who is your? I can't even pronounce this guy's name at left tackle. Is he going to be your left tackle? The Nijman?
Yosh Nijman? No, it's not going to be Yosh Nijman. Yes, and it is a hard name to pronounce. That's not who is going to be starting at left tackle. It's probably going to be I'm pulling up the depth chart real quick, just because now you have me questioning things.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's like going to be like Ricky Wagner, right? Like they're,
Yeah. Well, so the starting lineup is going to be a combination. It's probably going to be Rick Wagner, Billy Turner, Lucas Patrick, Corey Linsley, Elton Jenkins.
Okay, because I had that, but I had.
Are you on our lads?
Yes, I had Midgman at left tackle, and I'm like, wait, I don't know about
that. That's wrong. He is the backup left tackle, especially with and they did the whole signing Jared Valdir thing, and then that fell through. To be truthful, if I'm looking through this here, Nijman is probably the Wagner, Turner, Elton. He's the fourth option among active players that'll play left tackle. It'll be Billy Turner, Ricky Wagner, and Elton Jenkins are your top three, and then Nijman would be the break glass in case of emergency after you already broke the other glass in case of emergency option.
I think that's a very underrated issue though in this game. Not having a left tackle, and I don't think it's being talked about enough. And
do you know why?
Well, I feel like Green Bay fans know that Bakhtiari's out, but like the rest of the world doesn't. Like I feel like I said this on my show, and I said like I explained that Bakhtiari's out. I was doing a live stream on my YouTube. And like people were like, wait, Bakhtiari's out for the year? Like I was like, yeah, like you didn't know? Like people just don't even realize that. So they're assuming that this all-pro left tackle is going to be there on Saturday.
Yeah.
And Green Bay
Green Bay doesn't get enough national coverage. And I know, and I say that like as a Green Bay person who covers them and I see all the coverage they get. They don't get the national coverage like today there was a giant discussion in Packer Twitter of all week long, it's just been the Rams. There's been no talk about Green Bay. It's just been, can Jared Goff deal with the weather? Is Aaron Donald going to play? How healthy is Aaron Donald going to be?
Now you know what it's like to play against Seattle.
And that's
every little thing.
It's all week, and all we've heard about is Ram stuff, and which is fine. Like Green Bay, like we don't care. Like whatever, fine, go ahead. Like whenever we played the Bucs earlier in the year, it was just all week long. It was the Bucs, and then for the following 2 weeks, it was. Oh, Green Bay got exploited. They're fake phonies. Bucs beat them. They gave a blueprint. Yada yada. Whatever. Anyway, looking at this Rams team, most people would be like, "Oh, you lost Bakhtiari. That's a huge loss." Absolutely, it is. D-Bach has been the best left tackle in football for the last probably 3 or 4 years. He's been outstanding, nonstop, rock solid guy, and he was a 4th round pick out of Boulder, out of Colorado. He wasn't. It's not like they spent a 1st round pick on him. This wasn't Tyron Smith. This wasn't Andrew Whitworth, who's been there for 20 years. This was a 4th round pick out of Colorado that they started as a rookie in the year they went and won the Super Bowl. So losing Bakhtiari is terrible. It's awful. It sucks. But this team was built with a ton of depth. You have John Runyon, who can step in at guard for you. You have Lucas Patrick, who wasn't a starter on opening day. He stepped in after an injury to Lane Taylor. Ricky Wagner was signed as a swing tackle, and he can start for you. And he had some rough spots when he was thrust into the Bucs game, but the entire team was having an off day. And after that, he settled in, and the rest of the team has been good. Billy Turner looked like a miss in free agency last year, severe overpay, all this stuff. And then for the majority of the season, he was grading out in like the 90th percentile of pass block rating. So this offensive line is built from just studded out all up front, and then they have good depth behind it. Elton Jenkins played all 5 spots this year, and he's a 2nd-year player, and he's an All-Pro. And the argument could be made he could have been an All-Pro at multiple spots because he played a good amount of snaps at center and guard. So this group is really good. It's a great collection. The offensive line coach has really coached them up all year long. And in other years, I would be more nervous because I've seen Rodgers play behind a backup offensive line, and he has gotten blown up. in the year against the you guys remember the Cardinals game where he had 2 Hail Marys in the final drive? That game, he's playing behind 3 backups in that game, 3 backup offensive linemen. He got bowled over all game long. It was terrible. This game, losing Bakhtiari is terrible, but you have the depth now to make up for it. You can't fully replace him, but you can effectively replace him. Aaron Donald is going to get his, similar to Jalen Ramsey and Devontae and all these guys. He's going to get his. If Rodgers gets through this game without being sacked by Aaron Donald, I'll be shocked. And it's nothing against this offensive line or against Aaron Rodgers. It's how good Aaron Donald is.
Even injured, I feel like Aaron Donald is still like the best player in the league. But
injured Aaron Donald is still head and shoulders better than 95% of defensive players. He's just that good.
I just worry about going back to what I was saying earlier. I just worry about like being in the trenches, your rib injury, it's a lot of stuff going on. You're getting punched repeatedly. To me, I would honestly think about you using him at edge and having him rush off the left side. And I know it sounds weird, but I've seen his edge reps are very impressive.
Yeah, he's been moved all over the place. I noticed that last week watching the I think on the sack that he got injured, wasn't he rushing off the left tackle spot?
He was. And that's kind of like where that's where I would put him. I don't know about you, but I would put him there. The way Sebastian Joseph Day is playing, you mentioned him. Morgan Fox has just really emerged. Leonard Floyd's been a monster, and they still have Michael Brockers and Greg Gaines, who immediately when Aaron Donald got injured, Greg Gaines came in and got he registered 2 holding calls back to back. So I think that Eric Henderson, the defensive line coach, came over from the Chargers, has just done a brilliant job. And I would take advantage of that. I would beef up the trenches. You have A'Shawn Robinson now in playing form. He had all sorts of health, issues, early on in the season. Wasn't sure if he was even going to play. So he comes back week 11-ish, and has really started to get accustomed to the NFL game again. It was a while since he had played. So they're so built on the defensive line. So I guess I would just propose playing Aaron Donald, having him rush off the left tackle, taking advantage of that scenario where now Bakhtiari's out and you went to get Valdir and he's out. So yes, you have 4 guys that you feel comfortable could play there, but I still feel like Aaron Donald would obviously be able to feast on that matchup. And then at that point it becomes, do you win your interior battles? And does this help Aaron Donald? Because obviously rushing off the left side, if he's, rushing this way and say he has I don't know where the injury happened. Like if it's on the left side of his ribs.
No, it's on I believe it's right. It's on this part of his ribs right here. Like this, it's on his right. It's on his right.
If it's on his right side, then absolutely.
Yeah, because the way when he went down, Russ, he's dragging him from his left to his right, and Russ landed with his butt on the right half.
That was so weird.
So that's what happened. Yeah, and it was such a weird injury. Like when it happened, I'm like, we see this play every single game.
I know.
And especially every game, how often do we see a defensive player go, or a player in general, go grab, rip, tackle, and a guy lands on his stomach, and you don't think anything of it. So I don't know if Russ has just been eating too much. They say let Russ cook. He's been eating his own cooking. I don't know what's going on there. It was such a weird
Brian
play.
Schottenheimer eventually took over and ruined. Trust me, as a Rams fan, I watched Brian Schottenheimer's offense for years, too many years. He is. I don't know how he got an offensive coordinator job again, but he did, and ran them into the ground. But no, I hear you. That's a play we see all the time. It was just very, very weird and uncanny. But yeah, that's how I would use Donald, and then go ahead and use that defensive line the way you're using them. Because
and so you asked how I would feel about rushing Donald off at different spots, and I'm more than okay with it because I've seen Green Bay they don't have Aaron Donald, and there's only one Aaron Donald in the world, just like there was only one J.J. Watt, there was only one Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White, etc. But Green Bay has a similar player in Zadarius Smith. Zadarius Smith can rush from anywhere. I've seen him stand up in the A gap. I've seen him down with his hand in the dirt, rushing as a nose tackle. I've seen him go off the edge. He can come from anywhere. And Jared Goff is going to have to know where Z is, because he can win with power. He's got decent speed off the edge, especially for a bigger guy. Like Z is a dense player, but he's got really good speed, really good bend around the edge, and he can come from anywhere. And that's a big deal. So when you say, I don't know how I feel, you asked you don't know how I feel about Aaron Donald rushing off the edge.
Yeah.
I don't care. Put your best players in positions to succeed. The main issue that Green Bay fans have had this year is Kevin King. Kevin King is a physical press corner. We talked a little bit about Brandon Browner. I think that was right before we got started. Brandon Browner was a physical press corner. Kevin King is a press corner. He is not a off-cover corner. He's not a zone corner. He is you get up, use my physicality, and use that against you type. And Green Bay this year has far too often let him play soft coverage, and he's gotten burnt. He's not a great tackler, and it's been a problem. If Aaron Donald, if I was the defensive coordinator, if I was Brandon Staley, I would say, hey, Aaron, where do you want to rush? You want to rush from the left side? Cool, go for it. I don't care. If somebody else lines up in your spot, tell him to move.
Pretty much.
Aaron Donald is that damn good. Let him go do his thing. He is there's defensive player, just put your best players in positions to succeed. They know how they're going to win. Aaron Rodgers knows how he's going to win. Julio Jones knows how he's going to win. Aaron Donald knows how he's going to win. Just let them go do their thing. They're going to put you in positions to succeed. They're not going to hurt you. They're not going to set you up to fail. They're all going to go win their matchup. That's how life works. Do you think that Staley does a lot of coaching on Jalen Ramsey on game day?
No.
Probably not. I think he's like, hey, Jalen, go do your job. You know what to do.
Well, with what you're saying, it sounds like we got to, I mean, maybe not for you because this would be at your expense, but we got to get Chuck Pagano on the phone and tell him how the hell to use Eddie Jackson, because my man was like one of the scariest players in the back end of a secondary with Vic Fangio. And then all of a sudden he goes, Chuck Pagano's turned him into a box safety. What are you doing?
Chuck Pagano was not the reason that Bears team was bad.
No.
But Eddie Jackson regressed this year, to be honest with you. Not just because of the way he was used. The usage did not help.
No.
The Bears were the only team other than Green Bay that I watched every single game of theirs this year. And every time I watched that team, the defense has the talent to be great. Chuck Pagano he didn't do what Vic Fangio did. He didn't just let Eddie run true free safety role. That's not how his defense was. His defense has always been it was a too high system, and so I didn't necessarily agree with the way they used Jackson. I think he regressed some on his own. I think that the usage didn't help. So, but yeah, there's the idea that players just don't get to do what they do best hurts your team. It frustrates me to watch.
I hate it.
I would love to just watch Jair Alexander go and just play ball. Like earlier this year, the first game of the year, he had a safety on Kirk Cousins where he blitzed out of the nickel. That was not a called blitz. He read it before the play and went. He clicked, and his speed is so fast that Kirk never even got his head turned around to see Jair getting to him before he was on him. And I just love watching players make instinctual plays, because the elite, the best players in this league have that true gene of just, I know what the right play to make is. I know it, and I know how to make that play better than anybody else can. That's why I'm so damn good at what I do. Jalen Ramsey has it. Marcus Peters has it to a certain extent with his ball hawking. Same thing goes for Xavier Howard, J.C. Jackson, those guys. The elite of the elite have a specific trait that separates them from everybody else, and that's what. And I love watching it happen. So if Aaron Donald is lining up at rushing off the left tackle, you know what? Hopefully Green Bay's putting Bob Tunyon out there or Mercedes Lewis out there to maybe give Ricky Wagner some help if he needs it.
I would agree there. So they're traveling to Lambeau. It's kind of cold, and when injuries happen and it's cold, they hurt a little bit more. Do you think that will affect this game in any way? The weather.
Yes and no. There's not supposed to be a ton of snow. Green Bay just played a big snow game 3 weeks ago against the Titans. There was a ton of snow on the ground. There's not expected to be that much here. From what I've seen, there's a chance of precipitation, but it's not supposed to be nearly as high. And since the temperature is right around 32 degrees, it's going to be probably a wintry mix if anything happens. So if there is precipitation, it'll be probably a mixture of like rain, snow, maybe some like that freezing rain type stuff. That could cause an issue, but I don't expect it to be just a slosh fest out there. If anything, the main thing will be the cold, which catching balls from Jared Goff in the cold is probably a lot better than catching balls from Aaron Rodgers in the cold because Jared Goff doesn't throw it nearly as hard.
That is true.
Got that right. Yeah, I don't know. Like to me, it's weird because I've seen Goff throw in the cold. It wasn't like super cold, but I saw the Giants game where the Rams dropped 51 at MetLife, and it was freezing. Like there's so much rain and everything, freezing rain. And Goff threw 4 touchdowns and looked really good. And then I've seen him play against a tough, Fangio defense, with Denver, and I didn't think he played horribly. He was limited. And then, I remember him playing in New England with, gloves on and his rookie year, and that wasn't very good. So, I mean, it's kind of like he's all over the place. I don't know how, because people are trying to be like, when's the last time you wore gloves? Oh, he was bad then. Oh, he was good then. Oh, he was bad. So I guess he's a bad quarterback, gloves on. Like, it doesn't work.
He's a bad quarterback regardless, but that's not what we're talking about here. I think the issue with the Rams this week is with COVID, they weren't able to travel and experience that cold. And you can try and turn the AC up and do anything you want, but you can't replicate 32 degrees. You can't do it.
Well, you remember the Miami game with the sideline heat?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So
what was that? I've never seen that.
Are you talking about like they were heating up? Or no. You're talking about the thing that said it was like 140 degrees or whatever.
Yeah, it was 140 degrees on their side.
That temperature gauge was in the sun.
Oh,
it had been sitting in the sun all day, and because the only reason I know that is I saw that tweet. Someone's like, "Yeah, it's 140 degrees," and I kind of scrolled past. I was like, "That's hot." And then like 3 tweets later, it was this dial's been sitting in the sun all day. That's why it's so hot. Because someone looked and showed another one that was at the same game, and it was like 80 degrees or whatever it was. So that was in the sun. That's why it was so hot. But the thing about hot, you can replicate hot. It's a lot easier. Like that's why like Adam Thielen was on the Pat McAfee show like a month or so or a couple months ago before the Bucs game, and was talking about how they were replicating the humidity of like they were turning up the heat and they were making it really hot and humid in there. So that way they could kind of replicate that Tampa, Florida weather. You can't replicate the cold unless you have a state-of-the-art facility that allows you to drop the temperature down to 30 degrees. You're not going to be able to replicate that out in LA. You just can't do it. And since they can't travel out early to try and get weather acclimated, I think it's going to be a really big shock. And we might see the Rams take an extra long pregame and like really just try and get out there and try and get their bodies accustomed to the cold quicker. Because I don't know if you guys have ever ran in the cold before, but before you start running, being in the cold kind of sucks. Once you're warmed up, though, it's not that bad. But like that pre-cold, when it's just your whole body's stiffer, you don't stretch as well. You're more likely to pull something because you're probably not going to warm up as well as you should. So I think if I saw the Rams out on the field a little early, I wouldn't be all that surprised just for them to really get acclimated to the cold since they haven't been able to do so all week.
Yeah, I would agree. So let's jump into these predictions, man. Jake, I'll let you go first.
All right. Well, I'm rolling with the Rams here. I think regardless, like I said, whoever wins, I'm going to be rooting for the rest of the way. But I think the Rams defense is special. I don't get the same special vibe as the Greatest Show on Turf team. But I get, I just think they're special. I think this defense is, like I've said, it's very similar to a Brian Billick Ravens defense. And before you ask me, where's the 2 Hall of Famers? Well, Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey are going to be Hall of Famers. So I just think at the end of the day, they're very similar. Jared Goff, John Wolford, Blake Bortles. I mean, every quarterback on the Rams roster is better than Trent Dilfer and Tony Banks. So I don't worry about that. And at the end of the day, I just think that it's very similar to last year, how they kind of lost their identity towards the end of the year on offense, or rather they hadn't found it. And then, or not last year, but 2018. And then the postseason, they went with, Todd Gurley and CJ Anderson, found that run game. I kind of feel like they did with Akers. They won't have Darrell Henderson this game. He's not eligible to come back until next week if they make it, which I think they will.
Did they IR him?
They did. So he's out for 3 weeks.
Okay, I didn't know if I wasn't sure because I didn't see any COVID news, so I figured it was an IR thing, and I didn't remember them actually placing him on it. I just knew he was out with an ankle injury.
Yeah, so he had a high ankle sprain. It's the same ankle injury Akers had. I guess it must have been worse. He got it he was about to reach for the end zone, and Jamal Adams.
Yeah.
I feel like every injury the Rams had was in Seattle, but that's neither here nor there.
Wait, they played in New York, didn't they? Or in New Jersey?
Wait, where?
They played in Jersey, didn't they? Like against the Giants and the Jets? Arguably the worst field in football at MetLife?
No, they actually played them both at home.
Oh, okay. No, it was San Francisco that would play both.
Yes.
Okay.
Back-to-back weeks too, which was just ridiculous.
For some reason, I thought the Rams had played both games I thought the Rams had also traveled for both games.
No, they were both at the stadium. But,
okay, well then y'all lucked out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the East Coast games were pretty rough. I think they traveled across country 6 times, but I just I look at this game and I think I could see it going the Packers' way easily. I could also see this going the Rams' way. Ultimately, I'm kind of in the middle, but I do think at the end of the day the Rams will win 24-13. I think this defense is going to do their job, maybe get a turnover or something like that. But ultimately, I do think they're going to run the ball with Cam Akers. They're going to have Jared Goff make a couple, key throws and kind of have a similar game plan as the one, Cleveland had with Baker Mayfield that we saw on Sunday night that, didn't force him into, an opportunity to make mistakes. So, it was pretty easy, throwing to wide open receivers all game long and, allowing guys like Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb to just go off. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Akers, I'd like to see Henderson healthy, obviously, and have Akers and Henderson run. Malcolm Brown doesn't have that same burst, but Malcolm Brown and Akers is enough to run 40 plus times. And I do think this is a top 10 rushing offense in the league. And the biggest issue with this team has been just forcing Jared Goff to throw, more than he needs to. And I feel like since the injury, it's kind of correcting Sean McVay in a sense that now he realizes, well, I can't throw a ton when this guy has a broken thumb. So now they're going to, already know to run the football. They didn't, week 17, Cam Akers had 1.6 yards per carry, which, yes, you don't have to tell me is terrible, but he shouldn't have even played in that game, to be honest. That's what happens when you're playing for, a playoff spot. So he plays in that game, has 21 carries, hardly does anything, but he had a 40-yard completion. It was over the top by John Wolford down the sideline. And then in the next game, Jared Goff dumped it off to him, and he had a 44-yard completion. So I think the key is Cam Akers at the end of the day. I think you pound the rock with him 30 times, and then you allow him to be used in the passing game. And I think you're going to end up winning this ball game with the help of time of possession. Like I said, the formula for Sean McVay's success, getting to third and manageables because this is a good third down team. Third and 3 or under. And then at the end of the day, you run the ball, you keep your offense on the field, you keep your defense off it, you keep Rodgers on the sidelines, and you're as good as gold if you're able to do that.
I have to ask a quick question. Why in the hell was Blake Bortles inactive last week?
I don't know. And it irked me because you're saying that Jared Goff is clearly healthy enough to play because he's your backup, but then you didn't play Jared Goff. So to me, I felt like Jared Goff, like he said, or like Mike Silver reported, Goff was benched. I'll just tell you right now, I think he was straight up benched.
That's reasonable. I would have benched him. He had struggled.
I would too.
I'm
all over the Wolford train, so it's a real bummer that he's out, and I do blame Jamal Adams for that.
Yeah, personally, my favorite backup that played in that Week 17 game between the Rams and the Cardinals was actually the one for the Cardinals.
Like Strevler?
Then he's cool, he's fun.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Like his whole I'm sure you've seen his clips from like after they won the Grey Cup and whatever in Canada.
He's crazy.
Dude, yeah, no, he's crazy. But so I was just like, yeah, he's fun, but. I was kind of confused. I was like, okay, so Jared Goff, yeah, you benched him, whatever, and he's healthy enough to play, but not healthy enough to start, so you bench him. But why take the risk?
I know.
Because
Well, they must have liked Johnny Hecker that much, who would have been the third string emergency quarterback. And then I can tell you behind that,
that seems like a Robert Woods job. That seems like a Robert Woods would be the backup quarterback. That just seems right up his alley.
Next two guys, do you know who they are? I can tell you.
The next two quarterbacks?
Yeah, well, the next two emergency guys, because Bryce Perkins is also on the roster. But yeah, they had 4 quarterbacks and they only had 2 active. Which
Aaron Donald's got to be one of them. Like, he's so good. It's got to be Aaron Donald.
No, so the emergency quarterbacks in this order. So after you get through your quarterbacks, so you have 4 of them on the roster. Okay. It'd be Johnny Hecker, who played quarterback in high school.
Okay.
And he's thrown 18 passes in the NFL.
Yep.
Then it
hasn't he completed like 16 of them or something stupid?
Yeah, he's really good with that. Well, now our special teams coordinator doesn't actually. They have not run one fake with him. I can't say our special teams coordinator. That's neither here nor there. Anyway,
I have no sympathy for people like you. Okay, Green Bay has run like one fake special teams play in my life. Okay.
Oh well, to be fair,
that was the Tom Crabtree thing like 10 years ago. So anytime someone's like, we don't run fakes, I'm like, no, we don't run fakes.
Well, we made fakes the norm. And then they let Bones go, and Coach Bones is like the best special teams coordinator in the game. And they let him go, and they got Bonamego, who is historically, for his career, he's been fired like 6 times. And every single special teams unit he has is in like 26th or below in the league. Nice. But it's bizarre. But anyway, the 2 guys, Cam Akers, who played quarterback in high school.
Of course.
And Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp makes some sense. Yeah,
and after that, I couldn't tell you, but I don't.
I was like that backup quarterback just seems like a Robert Woods thing. That seems like Robert Woods who just seems to do everything, and he always plays at such a.
That would be his brand.
Robert Woods was never going to be the top of the top guys in the NFL, but he is always going to be I'm a fantasy. I write about fantasy a lot, and I'm always just like, yeah, I'll take Robert Woods at this pick because he's going to give me 12 points a week for 16 weeks.
Exactly. That's exactly the rationale I have with fantasy. Like when you're looking at Robert Woods, it's consistency factor. It's not. Yeah. I don't want a guy that has 145 and a touchdown on like 5 catches, and then the next week he turns in 2 catches for 11 yards. I want the guy that's going to give me 5, assuming PPR, 5 and 60 every week.
And might fall into the end zone. Yeah, no. If you have Marquise Brown, you also want to have a Robert Woods type.
How'd you know I was talking about Marquise Brown?
I'm really good at my job. Anyway, for my prediction, I understand you going with the Rams, but the score part was the part that kind of messed me up. You said 21-13. That indicates Green Bay kicked 2 field goals. I just talked about the fact Green Bay is scoring touchdowns on 90% of their red zone possessions. Rams are giving up 90% touchdowns on 90% of their defensive red zone possessions. So I already don't like the math there. If anything, it's like 21-20 because they scored 2 touchdowns.
Oh, I have 24-13.
Oh, 24-13. Whatever. Green Bay still kicked 2 field goals in your model. So I don't like that there. I think point. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Anyway, for me, I'm taking Green Bay to win, and I'm actually going to go with a very similar score. I'm going to go a little bit more. I'm going to go 27-17. I think Green Bay wins. The spread on this game opened at 7. It was down to 6.5 earlier in the day. I haven't looked. I'm kind of hoping it continues to fall so that way I can get Green Bay at even better odds. Ultimately for me, it comes down to quarterback and it comes down to quarterback health. It comes down to the weapons around them, and the defense I think is going to show up. I have no doubts in Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey and the guys we've talked about, Troy Hill, Sebastian Joseph Day. You said it was Wolf, right? Was Fox. Kaiser White I talked about. John Johnson is a great safety and does not get nearly enough recognition for how good of a player he is.
Oh, yeah. No, I hear you.
So I think that defense is good, but the Green Bay defense over the last 6 weeks has been playing really good ball. I don't like to ever predict my team to win Super Bowls. I don't do it. Anytime someone's like, oh, who do you think's the favorite to win the Super Bowl this year? I'm like, not Green Bay. Anybody but them. I don't do it because I think that people are like, oh, yeah, Green Bay is a lock to go to the Super Bowl or win it. I'm like, no, don't do that because you're going to get your hopes up and then you're going to get crushed. Last year when Green Bay played San Francisco, even before the first matchup, I was like, this is a bad matchup for Green Bay. If they play them in the playoffs, it's going to be bad again. Sure enough, same thing happened.
You guys can't beat San Francisco.
We beat San Francisco earlier this year. Granted, it helped.
Yeah, no,
San
this year.
I mean, half their starters, but San Francisco in the playoffs is a bugaboo. But I think that another thing that shows me some promises. The main way that I think the Rams could win this game is like you talked about. Give Akers the ball, feed him, let him do the work. And Green Bay shut down, quote unquote, Derrick Henry. When everyone saw Derrick Henry on the schedule, that's Green Bay fans, that's analysts, that's everybody was like, oh, Derrick Henry's going to go for 250 and 3 scores in this game. Green Bay's going to get whitewashed. Green Bay held Derrick Henry to 98 yards. Everyone's like, oh, well, he still had 98 yards. That's a pretty good day against Derrick Henry in a snow game.
Yeah.
In late December when your guys it's cold out, they don't want to hit anybody. I think that holding Derrick Henry to 98 yards is good. I think Cam Akers is great. I've been a fan of his all year. I drafted him in a few dynasty leagues. I like Cam Akers, but I think the Green Bay showed that they are willing to sell out to stop it. They were putting 6 guys on the line of scrimmage as well as putting a safety or 2 in the box. They were loading up and saying, if you're going to beat us, you're going to throw. And I think Tannehill, I think you would agree with this. Tannehill has played like a better quarterback the last 2 years than Jared Goff.
Fair. Oh, he's been great. He's been great.
So if you're willing to do that against Jared Goff or against Ryan Tannehill, who had A.J. Brown on one side, who I love Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. I think A.J. Brown's probably better than those 2 guys. It's close.
Yeah.
I think I would put it close. I think A.J. Brown over the last couple of years has been just outstanding. But if you're willing to do that against those guys, why would you not be willing to do the exact same thing against Jared Goff, who is a worse quarterback than Ryan Tannehill? I understand
I get that. But you got to be careful how much because here's the thing. It is Jared Goff. And it does sound on paper rather, just like conversational. Like you just be like, oh yeah, we'll just throw like 8 or 9 guys in the box. Sean McVay knows how to work around that, and he uses a lot of bubble screens. Which don't get me started. Like I'm not gonna have any hair because I rip it out all the. I don't actually, but like
trust me. Did you watch the Green Bay Carolina game this year?
I did.
Okay, so you remember that second half where Green Bay was throwing like 3 bubble screens and then having
you have Aaron Rodgers, so let's throw 1-yard passes.
Yeah. So I'm feeling you there when you say that you were ripping your hair out. I'm like, dude, throw anything else. Throw a quick slant. Just throw a 9-ball. I don't care. Throw anything other than this screen that's not gaining you any yards. So I feel you there. Yeah, no, the Rams run a ton of screen stuff, and I think that's definitely where you see
the fake tosses. I mean, I think you saw the Seattle film because we were talking about that. The fake tosses. I mean, they abuse that, but I feel like you can get somebody on that. They ran this one, and I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the play, but you have it's almost like a tight end screen, except
are you talking about like the little running across the like right behind the line of scrimmage thing?
Yeah, it's like a hook almost, like, but it's used either Everett or Higbee. I think to me in this game, if the Rams can't run the football, well, they'll probably lose. But if they can't run the football the way they want to, and Green Bay sells out, stops the run, very similar to like say the Rams selling out and stopping Ezekiel Elliott in the 2018 divisional round game. I think they're going to use Higbee and Everett over the middle, and I think that's where they'll have their success. I'll be honest, I think the biggest issue with Green Bay, I don't love their linebackers.
Their linebackers are a lot better than everybody thought they would be.
They are, and I like Kamal Martin. I liked him in the draft as a solid player. The guy he started Chris, I forget.
It's Chris Barnes, and I'll 100% agree with you. If you look at their defense, their weak point is definitely the linebackers, especially when Mike Pettin sits in a zone and leaves Christian Kirksey in the center of the field to cover a drag route. He did it against the Colts, and Michael Pittman just burned him. And everyone's like, well, Michael Pittman's great. And I'm like, yeah, Michael Pittman's good, but he also had to outrun Christian Kirksey.
No, I know. Because the Rams did that with Troy Reeder. It's like Reeder's playing good football, and then they isolate him on Metcalf, and everyone's like, Reeder sucks. And I'm like, well, I mean, he's on Metcalf.
You go run with DK Metcalf. The guy's 6'4", 240, and runs a 4.3. You go run with him.
Exactly. Like nothing will expose a fan more than the way they talk about linebackers. Now, I'm saying that I think it's their weak point. I'm not saying they suck.
No. Well, because there's some people that like I listen to a lot of podcasts and everyone's like, Packers linebackers are awful. And I'm like, you don't watch the game. I'm like, their linebackers aren't great, but you don't watch it. And I can tell you don't because all you're saying is their linebackers are terrible. I can tell when someone watches because they'll say, "Oh, Chris Barnes flashed here, Kamal Martin flashed there, Christian Kirksey has stepped up lately." I can tell when you do or don't watch the game. So Chris Barnes, that is the weak point, is the linebackers, but they've also stepped up a little bit. And one of the main things they've done is Adrian Amos and Darnell Savage have been allowed to play just really free as of late. Darnell Savage has been put kind of in that Budda Baker role of, hey, just kind of go do stuff, man. Just go around, make plays. We know you're going to make good plays, and he's made plays on the ball. And he can, and they're also patrolling that zone that Christian Kirksey had been relegated to, which has helped take away a lot of those drag routes. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I respect this Rams team, and if they beat Green Bay, I wouldn't be surprised because I can picture in my head how they would do it. It wouldn't be putting up 35 with Jared Goff having 403 and 4 scores.
If he does that, everybody better watch out.
If that happens, I can't watch the rest of the playoffs. I'm like, nope, I'm chalking it. I can't. This 2020 is not over yet, and I can't watch it. So if they win, it's not going to be that way. It's going to be the way you talked about when they win 24-13. They grind it out on the ground. Jared Goff makes a couple key throws here and there, similar to what Jimmy Garoppolo did for the 49ers last year. Jimmy G had 8 completions. Yeah. And everyone's like, Jimmy G only had to throw the ball 8 times. Yeah, because the running back had 250 yards by himself. Duh. Jimmy G in that game made key throws. They had a couple of situations on 3rd down where Jimmy G had to throw it, and that extended the drive and allowed them to continue to run the ball effectively. Jared Goff makes those throws and has to do it. I think he had one in last week's game. They got into like a 3rd and long situation, and he completed one on Kupp. It was either Kupp or Woods on that on the right sideline.
Oh, okay.
You know the play I'm talking about?
Well, are you talking about the deep bomb where it was so poorly underthrown and Kupp had to jump up and bail him out?
Not that one. There was one that Kupp or Woods got kind of open on the right sideline, and it helped extend the drive. It was on a 3rd down, and it.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's like, oh well, they got to run here, and okay, there we go. So Goff hit Woods and extended the drive. I was like, yeah, see, Goff can still do it. He doesn't have to do everything. All he's got to do is make those key throws. So yeah, Rams can definitely beat Green Bay. I think that the Rams are one of the best teams left. Obviously, that's why they're still here. If I was ranking the NFC teams, I'm putting the Rams in a tie for 2nd with the Saints. I think that the Saints are better than the Bucs. I think Green Bay is the best team left in the NFC. That's my opinion. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but I just think that.
Well, I mean, I think the 2 best teams in the NFC are playing in this game, and the 2 best teams, the 2 out of the 4 best teams in the NFL right now, I think are playing in this game because I just don't think people are paying enough attention to what Green Bay is doing. Like you pointed out, the defense is playing better, and they're getting good at the right time, and I'm starting to I was noticing that. Because Mike Pettin gets a lot of crap, and I was a big fan
deservedly so.
And deservedly so, yes. But one thing that you can't forget is that he's had success in this league, and I think that they're starting to come back to what I expected them. Because personally, I thought this was going to be like a 15-1 football team. They're not that far off, but 15-1 football team where they're dominant on both sides. I really felt like this defense was going to be special. And obviously they didn't sign Littleton or Kwiatkowski, and they lost Blake Martinez, but I wasn't worried about that necessarily. But with the Rams, I also think people aren't paying attention because they just saw the Seahawks game and they fall into the trap where it's but Jared Goff. And I get that, but at the same time, it's but this defense is the best thing in the league right now.
Jared Goff is the only reason I can't put the Rams as a clear 2. That Jared Goff, especially with the broken thumb. With a broken thumb, and he's got to go on the road because they're a wild card team. So even if they win this game, they're still going on the road next week. Yeah. So that's the only reason I can't. If Jared Goff if Jared Goff was fully healthy, if Jared Goff was fully healthy, I would have a lot more confidence in this Rams team. So that's the only reason I tie them with the Saints, because the Saints also have a really good defense. They have a great offensive line.
Whoa. What? On this podcast, the Saints are always last.
I'm down.
You can't put the Saints behind the Bucs. I'm sorry. The Saints have toasted the Bucs twice this year. I get that.
Yeah,
so I get it. I get you want to put the Saints always last, but in this situation, talking about this. And you know what? If for everybody listening, my Twitter is on the screen right now. It's at GBridgefordNFL. You got a problem? Come talk to me. I have no problem answering. I answer every single DM that is sent to me. Even if it's just you sending me a middle finger and saying that I'm trash, I'll say thank you for reading. I don't care. So the Saints here, they're tied for second with the Rams. If Jared Goff was fully healthy and the Rams didn't have to go on the road, they would be like, if they were even if they were just like a 4 seed or something, they would be the clear 2. But as long as Goff's got the busted thumb, I can't say, yep, they're clearly better than the Saints. So when you say, like, yeah, I'm falling into the trap, yes and no. I'm falling into the trap of the Jared Goff, but I'm falling into
directed at you, though. I've seen people that literally are like, well, the Rams have no chance because Jared Goff.
Yeah, no, and I'm like, no, the Rams have a chance in spite of Jared Goff. But but as long as Jared Goff has a thumb that is not fully healed, I have to say, no, they're tied with the Saints for the second best team in the NFC. Do I think that the Rams can beat the Saints? Absolutely. But am I going to say without a doubt, with a busted thumb Jared Goff, I can't say with 100% confidence.
I did laugh at it was Nick Wright. Well,
so you're already laughing right now. You could have said just that. That's all you have to say.
And he comes out and says, if Sean McVay had an opportunity to grab Taylor Heineke next year and start him for 16 games, are you telling me he wouldn't do that? And I'm like,
no. I mean,
Taylor Heineke, like, no, he wouldn't. Are you kidding?
Taylor Heineke was awesome.
He was. That was a one-game wonder.
Come on now.
What are you talking about? 1-game wonder? He played 2 games.
Oh God! All right, so
he was all right.
Predictions, man. It's been fun with you guys on this show, man.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna be honest. I got the Packers just because I love Aaron Rodgers, man.
I got them too. I'm glad we all love Aaron Rodgers on this podcast.
Yeah, he's a pretty good guy, right?
I got them winning 31-17 in this game. And I'm gonna tell y'all the whole truth. I got the Packers winning the Super Bowl, man, so I can get me an Aaron Rodgers jersey.
Dude, fun fact, you can buy one anyway. They sell them all the time.
Yeah, I know, but they gotta win a Super Bowl. Have the Super Bowl.
So I gotta chime in because you mentioned the jersey, and I might get blowback on this, but I don't care. I was like this close to buying an Aaron Rodgers jersey because I'm a huge fan, but I didn't because I was like, here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna buy an Aaron Rodgers jersey, and then the Rams are gonna lose to the Packers, and I'm gonna be sitting there like I literally caused this.
You're gonna be the guy that bought a Packer jersey. And then Green Bay lost. Oh, by the way, quick thing, breaking news while we're live here. The Jets are hiring Robert Saleh as their new head coach.
Yeah.
Like that was just announced in the last 25 seconds by Schefter.
I think they should have gone with Arthur Smith, but that's just me.
I don't think they should have gone with Arthur Smith, but that's
we should
talk about that another time. No, my thing with Arthur Smith is is he going to try and replicate what he's doing in Tennessee? Because 1, you shouldn't try and do that because you don't pay running backs. But 2, they don't have the offensive line to do so. They don't have the triggerman quarterback. They don't have the offensive line to just. If Smith is going to bring a different system there, it's one thing. But if he's going to try and bring the play action, pound the rock thing, then what? You're going to draft Najee Harris in the first round. Which, granted, by the way, for anybody that's a betting person, put down money on one running back being selected in the first round. It's probably going to happen. It's happened like every year for I don't even know how long. It's been a long time. But
you had to sweat it out though last year.
That did happen. But so I think that the main thing is that with I like Saleh as a head coach personally. I wouldn't have. I don't know if I would have grabbed him, but I think he makes a lot of sense for the Jets, who have a lot of really talented defensive players. But they're like the Arthur Smith thing is just if he's going to bring that same system he has in Tennessee and try and replicate that elsewhere, I think it's a very rare formula to try and replicate. And you're now chasing the rule. There's exceptions to the rule, but now you're chasing the exception of the rule, and that's not a good. It's not a good recipe.
No, I get that. I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying I felt like he was the better candidate of the two. I mean, personally, if I had a young quarterback like the Jets do, I mean, I wouldn't even wait a second. I would be hiring Joe Brady. Wouldn't even wait a second.
Favorite. I love Joe Brady as a coach. I think he's going to be a great one. I hope the Falcons come to their senses and they get Joe Brady. All right,
I think aren't you guys like the favorites to get him now?
No, Arthur Smith is the favorite right now.
Yeah, Smith was announced as the favorite in the last few hours.
And so he's the favorite right now. But yo, guys, it's been a pleasure having y'all on the show. Any plugins before we get up out of here?
Jake, you can go first.
Okay. Yeah, if you like, obviously me, you can follow me at JKBoganDTSN. I do follow back. Jake Ellenbogen is the YouTube. I'm on Downtown Rams, Downtown Sports Network. And I'm also just started a brand new show that is airing every Saturday, 12 to 2. It's Eastern time. The AJ show, it's with me and my co-host who runs the Adam Steele Big Steelers YouTube channel. We basically talk all about, the NFL, football, all of that. So that's live every Saturday, 12 Eastern time to 2 p.m. Eastern time.
You can follow me on Twitter, and like Jake said, if you like me, you can follow me on Twitter at GBridgeFordNFL. If you don't like me, you can also follow me on Twitter. I don't really care. Like I said at the very beginning of the show, you can find all of my work on my Twitter. I write for 4 different websites. I do personal stuff. I do, especially with draft season kicking off. I'm working on a lot of draft content right now, so you can find all of my stuff there. It's just way easier than telling you each individual site I write for. Thank you again for just having me on. This was a blast to do, and this is the first time I've gotten to talk Rams for longer than 10 minutes on a fantasy podcast. So this was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you guys for coming on, man. And if you're new to the channel, you know what to do. Like and subscribe. Forever I Love Atlanta Sports Podcast. Make sure y'all go follow G Bridge and Jake, and make sure y'all go subscribe to their channels. Hey, yo, Ace, take us out, man. Peace.